Now that we got the basics covered about forms, let's actually write the PHP code to process this particular form. Just to remind us, I'm going to pop into Dreamweaver here. Of course, you could use any text editor. And we got our first input box with a name of name_first. Our second input box of with a name of email. So let's gather those. So since the action for the form is form_response.php, that's the actual PHP script that's going to be used to process these form elements. So let's go back into form_response.php, and to speed things up a little bit, I started us off with our first bit of code here, and it says post first name. So this, I think, should be ringing some bells with you guys, because if you look back in our original form, let me scroll this into place, you notice the form is set to send the form data to us via the post method. Now if you look here, it says post, and we see our square brackets, and we see the name of name first. This is something I typed in a little bit earlier. Name first, well, name_first, of course, corresponds to our first input box, which has a name of _first. So I'm sure you guys have picked up that this bit of PHP code here is grabbing the value held in that first text box that we named name_first. So what exactly is this post thing? This is something new that we haven't discussed yet in PHP, something called a superglobal. Now a superglobal, there are many of these things in PHP, and essentially they're associative arrays that PHP automatically creates for you, and these arrays hold lots of interesting information. We're going to actually cover superglobal arrays in another video, but for now you need to know that PHP has a few superglobal arrays that are specifically made for processing form information. And you have the post superglobal array. Let's copy that. And then we have the other one is the get superglobal array. And again, this goes along with the method here. Remember, we spoke about we could have the post or the get method. So I put the get method. All the values contained in this form would be sent to this page via get, and PHP is smart enough to pick all those values up, and it would stick all those values in the get superglobal array. And then the final superglobal that has to do with form processing that we're going to look at is request. And now request basically is a catch-all. It catches all the values contained within the post and the get request that the browser sends to the PHP script. We'll get into that a little bit later, but what you want to take away right now is that PHP automatically creates these things called superglobal arrays. There's many of them, and inside these superglobal arrays are your name value pairs, like any other associative array, which contains information contained within this particular array would be the post information sent by the browser, the get information sent by the browser for this one, and finally the request captures all the information, whether it be sent by post or get. So let's delete these two. We'll save this page, and we'll see what happens when we view the page. So I'm just going to put in the first name of Steph. Okay, Stefan. Submit request, and we see nothing here. And the reason we see nothing here is because we haven't done anything with this information. We should actually print this out. So we go, I'll do it in lowercase because I like keeping things consistent. Print, we've saved that. Go back, submit this form again. And there we go. PHP has printed out the name Stefan for us. Let's add a little bit to that for us. Save that. Let's try again. We could actually just refresh the page. There we go. First name Stefan. So you can see here where our first videos where we started looking at how to handle print function, how we could add strings together and so forth. comes in handy when we're dealing with the form. Another way we can do this, we could go print double quotes colon. We just take this, put it in a couple of curly brackets, save that, hit refresh. Parse error, unexpected semicolon. So let's go back and check that out, see what we did wrong. Of course, this right here. So I'm just going to delete that, refresh again. There we go. Again, we're using, this is an easier way to actually insert variables into strings. Now, we could copy that, and I'll show you how to do something here. Go first name. Actually, want to make this a variable, so go first name equals post data, and that off, and then copy that, put that in here. This is just a cleaner way of doing it. We refresh again, everything works fine. So we're looking at how we can grab different form values. So let me copy that, save that. Let's go back to our form. Okay, the other input box is email. So let's go back here, and we're going to tell PHP that we want to look at the value of email in our post super global array. So I'm going to change this variable name to email. Same type of deal. Couple curlies. Save that. This we have to go back this time. So we're going to put in an email address. Submit this. And there we go. Our values are being captured by PHP automatically for us. And these values are being automatically inserted into our post super global array. So you notice with these two variable values, we're actually just using standard associative array syntax, right? So associative array code to basically grab the variable values that we're looking for. The variable values were derived from forms. Well, was derived from our form that we just set up a moment ago. As an experiment and to just prove a point, let's go back to our form.php page, and let's change the form method to get. And again, we could leave it capital, but I just don't like doing that. So we're going to hit save. And we will now post our form. And we refresh this page. Submit the request. You notice that we have no values for our two text boxes that we just filled in. And if we take a look at our query string, you notice that our values have now been added here in the query string because we set it to get. We covered this in a previous video. So our values are not appearing here because they were not captured by PHP, simply because, again, this is set to get. You look at our form, we're actually trying to capture values from post. So since our form is not using the post method, if we go back to the form again, we're using the get method here. It's not sending any information for PHP to capture. So we could switch our form back, or we could just use the get super global array. We'll just switch that to get. I'll save that page. Go back here, and I will just resubmit the form again. And here we go. Our values are now being captured. And again, just to prove we're still using get, you can see the query string is being filled out. So I did this just to prove a point, to show you how get and post super global arrays, how they have an impact on things. I think it's pretty clear. Another thing we can look at, just for fun, we can look at request. Let's go request. As I said earlier, the request super global array captures both post and get submissions. So we're just going to submit this again without making any changes to the form. You see it captures it. If we go back, now I'm going to go change our form to post, save that, and let me just refresh the form so it's updated. And I'm going to now submit the request again. And again, as expected, it still captures the data because we are now using the request super global, which captures everything. So it begs the question, why not just use the request super global instead of post or get? The reason being, it's minor, but when you use post, it's a little bit more secure than get. And of course, since request rather captures both get and post information, it's a little less secure. I would actually use post or get unless there's special situations where you're not sure whether or not you're going to get a click-through to a PHP page, and you're not sure if it's going to come in through post or get. For instance, if we go back to our form here, if you notice at the bottom, I have this query string here, and this sends values. If I highlight that, look in this bottom bar here, I'm going to highlight the link, and you see there's some name value pairs being submitted. Of course, we're submitting it to the wrong location, so I'm going to switch that just to illustrate what I'm trying to illustrate here. So I go back into our form.php page. This is our target script, form response.php. If I scroll down to our link, let me just bring this into view, and you see it's going to keyword PHP. Let me change that to form response.php. We save that, and let me make a point here. I'm going to put this value here to email just so we see what's going on. So let me refresh this. Okay, the query string is now being sent to the right location so that you guys can see. I'm just going to adjust the window for you. Query string, look at this bar here. It's going to our form response.php. So we're going to capture email. And so I see the email value is videos. Now we're able to capture that. Now if I go back to here, I just submit the form now instead. We're still capturing values because we're saying request email. And if you remember the query string back here, or the query string, we're saying email has a value of videos, right? So request is able to capture email even though it's two different emails, right? What I'm talking about here is you got email here in the form link. Email has a value of videos. And you go up here, email has a value of, email is derived from the form tag, which people have to fill in. So you see how the request is a catch-all, but you can also see how requests may cause some problems where if you do have a form where you're targeting the same PHP page and you're sending query string data, or optionally you may send form data and you have variables with the same name, there could be a conflict. You're going to have to work it out on a per situation basis. In the next video on forms, we're going to look at processing the rest of this HTML form here. And we're going to then take the information in that form and we're going to send it via email. We're going to use PHP to gather the information, grab it up, and send it via email. So this will basically allow us to create a basic PHP contact form. And it's a little tool that you could use to create simple surveys. And I've used it quite a bit actually on killersites.com over the years. And I'll show you how you can do that. And we'll have our first practical and usable PHP code that you can use in your own websites.